What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After, Season 7, Episode 14, Stand By Me. So I want to start off with Jovi and Yara. So Jovi and Yara have landed in Germany with Yara's mother and Jovi's friend. I forgot his name. Talmadge. So as soon as they arrive at the hotel, Yara passes off the baby to Jovi and she runs off to go meet with her friend Karina in the hotel lobby that they're staying in. So her and Karina, they meet, they reunite. It's a very beautiful moment. Karina tells Yara that 2 days after she left her apartment building, that same building was destroyed by a rocket. So she was able to escape by the skin of her teeth. And luckily, she did. Yara talks about how she basically does have survivor's guilt. Now, someone in my comments last week had mentioned that Yara might be having survivor's guilt, and that's why she has this need to stay in Europe and to help out her friends and family that are being affected by what's going on in her home country, because the fact that she's living the good life in America and her people are literally running for their lives. And, but for the grace of God, it could have been her. So that guilt that she's having, I think, is the driving force behind why she wants to stay in Europe. So the next day, all of them go out for breakfast and the waitress is there taking everybody's order, and Jovi orders beer. And the waitress was like, and it completely went over my head when he initially ordered the beer. I didn't even pay any attention to it until the waitress was like, what do you mean you're going to order beer for breakfast? And that was when I was like, oh, wow, he's ordering beer for breakfast. And Yara also, noticed it, and she did not like it at all. And the waitress was completely surprised. And then I was like, wow, does Jovi have a problem ordering beer for breakfast? And in Jovi's defense, he says, hey, it's not like it's 7 o'clock in the morning, it's mid-morning. But still, Jovi, that was a little bit odd. And he did it so casually, like, he didn't even think twice about ordering beer for breakfast. I think any other normal person probably would have had to explain themselves first and say, hey, y'all, I'm about to order me some beer. I know it's really early in the morning, but I really have a craving for it or whatever. Jovi was just like, yeah, give me 2 beers. And he said that he really wanted to take advantage of Germany's beer because evidently it's very unique. It's not something that is, I guess, you can get easily in the United States. And Yara was like, but still, it is still in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, it's still in the morning. You could really wait until the afternoon or the evening before you order beer. And he was sitting there drinking his beer and his coffee at the same time. I don't like the taste of beer at all. I just can't imagine craving that in the morning and then drinking it with your coffee at the same time. That just sounds really gross to me. So Yara tells, first of all, Karina, she talks about how in her little own confessional, she talks about how she never thought that Jovi and Yara were a good match. So she really doesn't see it for them as a couple. And Yara tells Jovi that she does want to stay in Europe to help her friends and family. Jovi obviously is not in agreement. Karina and Yara's mother, they step in to kind of to help convince Jovi to allow Yara to stay. And Jovi's not having it. He's not listening to it. He does not want that at all. He wants them all to go home together. He says, we came as a family and we're leaving as a family. And Karina, which I thought she was kind of like overstepping her boundaries when she said that Jovi was being selfish. I'm like, girl, how dare you? I understand that Karina has known Jovi for as long as Yara has, because she was there when they first met, I think. But girl, no ma'am. You cannot sit there and pass judgment on your friend's husband when they're going through their marital strife. I am not in agreement with outsiders getting too deeply involved with married people's problems, because married people, especially if they're going to eventually just remain married, they're going to go through a lot of stuff. They're going to go through a whole bunch of ups and downs, and you cannot be dragged along in their ups and downs, and you know how married people are. they'll argue, they'll involve everybody in their arguments, and then later on that night, they're cuddling together, they're canoodling, and they're talking it over, and they've kissed and made up. But everybody else is still revved up and angry about whatever the issue is. And so the next time that you see them, you're still upset, you're still fired up, but they've already done kissed and made up the night before. So that's why I feel like, when married people go through their strife, just leave them alone, leave them at it. If they're asking for advice, you might want to tread very lightly, give, non-offensive advice. Like, I'm gonna pray for you, girl. I'm gonna pray that y'all gonna work it out, and just keep it at that. But when you're getting too damn involved, you're gonna be the one losing. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So Karina says, Jovi, you're being really selfish because he doesn't want Yara to stay in Europe. And even Yara pipes in and says, I think you're being selfish too. And Jovi looked pissed off. He looked pissed. And so in his confessional, Jovi says, I don't think it was Yara's original idea to want to stay in Europe. I understand that a lot of people believe that Yara is being influenced by her mother, being influenced by her friend, or whatever the situation is. But to me, I'm still going to stand by this. I think that Yara does what Yara wants to do. I don't think anybody can convince Yara to do anything that she didn't want to do, because I can only imagine. I don't know exactly how her mother felt when she wanted to marry Jovi and go to America and become a U.S. citizen and all of that. I don't know how her mother felt about all of that. But if her mother was against it, I don't think that would have stopped Yara from being with Jovi, because Yara is always going to do what Yara wants to do. So I think that this was her plan before she even left Louisiana. I think her plan was to possibly stay in Europe, because she was so adamant about leaving for Europe alone with her daughter. And Jovi kept on telling her, no, I want you to wait until I come back from work, and then we can leave together, because I'm going to be really worried about you. And she was like, no, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I'm not even going to my home country. I'm going to the Czech Republic. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. She was so adamant about leaving on her own. And I think she wanted to leave by herself so that she can get to Europe and start looking for her own apartment and do her own thing, and possibly even extend her stay, and just call Jovi and be like, yeah, remember how I was going to be back in a couple of days? Well, yeah, things happened over here, and I'm going to have to stay longer. She would come up with some excuse of why she would have to stay in Europe longer if she had traveled by herself. So I totally believe that Yara doesn't want to leave because Yara doesn't want to leave. I don't think it has anything to do with her mom or her friend. I think she's convincing her mother and her friend to help her convince Jovi to allow her to stay in Europe. But I think eventually, to me, it's evident that this is just Yara's doing 100%, her idea to stay in Europe. Moving on to Usman and Kim. And by the way, every time I look at Jovi, he really reminds me of, I think the character's name is Sid from Toy Story, the bully in Toy Story. Every time I look at him, I think of that character. Moving on to Usman and Kim. So unfortunately, we get some really, really devastating news in Kim's segment. She's back in California, and we find out that I think it was like a few weeks after she came back home, her mother got really sick, and her mother ended up passing away. And that was, really awful news to hear, because we've seen her mom on this show many, 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 many times. We're very familiar with her. And so, we consider her like part of the 90 Day family. And unfortunately, she passed away. So obviously, Kim and Jamal are devastated by this loss. Kim tells us that she has been living with her mom for 8 years. She was her mother's primary caretaker, and Kim feels like she has no one to take care of her now. Jamal says that my mom doesn't like being alone, so this is going to be very difficult for Kim, being so used to having her mom there with her. And then Kim also talks about how very, very, very close her and her mother were. So I can't even imagine what Kim is going through. So according to Jamal, Usman was a great support to Kim during this very difficult time. And it was very important for Kim to have Usman. So because of the fact that Usman was a great support system for her during this time. And now her mom has passed away. Jamal has moved out. Kim doesn't want to be alone. She's used to always having someone there. So now it's even more important for her to have Usman come to the United States. Sometimes reality TV can get a little bit too real when we hear about people passing away, people that we're used to seeing all the time. So Kim calls Usman and she tells him how much she really appreciated him being there for her and during her mom's death. And so above all else, if nothing else, Kim and Usman are friends. I think that they have a true friendship. I don't know about the romance part. I don't know about the romantic part, but it seems like they are friends, and he was being a very good friend to her. Usman says, so then Usman brings up, his next big plan. So because of the fact that he cannot have another wife after he marries Kim, he's decided that in order to circumvent the whole, polygamy, bigamy thing, but for him to still have a child, he wants to adopt his brother's youngest son. His brother Muhammad has a 3-year-old son. And before I knew the age of the child, Usman talked about how him and his nephew are so extremely close. And I was thinking of a child that was probably like a teenager, but the baby's only 3 years old. But Usman says that him and his nephew have a very close relationship, have a very tight bond. I don't know how, as much as Usman is, running around chasing older women, doing his music career, flying all over the place with Kim and, going to Tanzania, doing this and that and the third. I don't know how he had time to develop a very close bond with his 3-year-old nephew, but evidently he did. So because it's important for him to have a child and a nephew will be still in his bloodline, he poses this idea to Kim. He's like, so what do you think about that? And she's like, so who's going to raise this child? And he's telling her, you are. Because the child's going to come to the United States. You're going to raise this child. And Kim is like, hold up. I need to think about this. And so to me, this whole idea just doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. I just don't understand how, and I've always had this issue with Usman, how he picks and chooses what parts of his culture he wants to follow. I know for sure it wasn't a part of his culture, or maybe not even part of his religion, for him to be intimate with Kim before she even became his wife. But he did that without a problem. I'm pretty sure he indulges in other things that are not culturally appropriate or religiously appropriate. But then other things he really, really holds on to, like this whole thing about how he has to have this child. If it's that important to have a child with, I don't understand how adopting your nephew is replacing you having your own biological child. I don't understand how that replaces it. I don't get it, because you have the ability to still have your own child, but and then your culture expects you to have more than one. I mean, I just don't understand how he moves these pieces around to fit what he wants to. Okay, but anyway, so he tells Kim, look, I want to adopt my brother's child, and you're going to be the one raising this child. Kim is 50 something years old, I think. And she's like, I don't know about this. So she goes out to eat with the cutie Jamal, and every time Usman wants her to do something that's very challenging, he throws his culture in, he throws his religion in, to convince her to do whatever convoluted thing he wants her to do. So she tells Jamal that Usman wants to adopt his brother's child. And Kim says that she's always the one that has to sacrifice. She has to bend over backwards. She has to accept new challenges. And it's always her. She's always the one that always has to do something that's completely out of her comfort zone to satisfy Usman. And Jamal was like, is this what they do over there? And Kim says, yeah, in his region, this is what they do. This is what they do. Family is very important. It's very important to keep everything within the bloodline. So yeah, this is what they do. Is it, Kim? Are you doing independent research? Are you talking to other Nigerians from Usman's region to find out if this is what they do? Or are you just accepting whatever he throws at you because you are so desperate to keep this man in your life? So Kim then talks about how she wants to go back to Nigeria and she wants Jamal to come with her because she wants Jamal to see for himself the reason why she's fighting so hard for this relationship. So she's going to go back to Nigeria, drag her son over there with him so that Jamal and Usman can finally meet face to face because she says that she doesn't want to be stuck in the middle between the two men in her life and she wants them to create a bond and be friendly with one another, get to know each other and to like each other because she wants them to be one little happy family. And she says that she doesn't feel comfortable marrying Usman unless Jamal approves of Usman. And Jamal to me has always seemed like the kind of guy who's like, you know what, whatever makes you happy, I'm for it. Like he really is not going to stop it because he knows that his mother really wants to be with this man. He's not going to say to his mother, I don't like him. I don't want you to be with him because he knows how happy being with Usman makes Kim. So I don't see Jamal getting in the way of the relationship between Usman and Kim. He wants to support his mom. He knows his mom wants to be with this man. And I think he's just going to end up supporting either way. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't get it at all. Why? It's like he's always like he's trying to satisfy everybody. And sometimes it's just not possible. He wants to keep his mother happy by having this child, which is him just adopting his brother's son. Who's only 3 years old. Like, why would the brother... And I'm assuming the brothers, why would it be okay with Usman taking their 3-year-old child, and then just dumping that child off in America with this woman that they themselves really don't even know that? I don't understand anything about Usman. And Kim is going to, if this is going to actually go through, if this is going to actually happen and go through, Kim is going to end up accepting it, taking care of this child, running herself crazy, raising a 3-year-old. Not saying that a person her age couldn't do it, but I don't think this is what she really signed up for. So he's gonna, oh, you know what I just thought of? Is this really Muhammad's son? Or is it Usman's? I don't know. Nothing makes sense here. Let's move on to Sumit and Jenny. Sumit and Jenny. Okay, so Sumit, Jenny, and Jenny's daughter and Jenny's daughter-in-law, they go to take some Bollywood dancing class. Jenny says in her confessional that if Sumit didn't work so much, they could be doing stuff like this more often. They come back home. And Sumit says that the next day he's going to have to go to work. And after he gets off work, he's going to go see his family. I would have thought that because Jenny's daughter and daughter-in-law are in town, that he would have, foregone seeing his family just for this one day to spend more time with Jenny and her daughter and her daughter-in-law. But he's like, I got to go to work. Okay, we understand that. And he goes, then I got to go see my family. And so he says he hasn't seen his parents since him and Jenny got married. And he's still going to try to convince them to accept Jenny as his wife. So we are still singing that tired old tune of, I need to have my parents accept Jenny as my wife. And it's like a continuous loop. Whenever he goes to see his parents and talks to his parents about Jenny, he tells them, well, if you can't accept Jenny, then you can't accept me. And then he leaves. And then he tells Jenny, I need to convince my parents to accept you as my wife. He goes back to his parents. If you can't accept Jenny, then you can't accept me. And it's just like continuous. And it's like, where does it get too boring even for them? It's boring enough for us. When does it get too boring for them? So the daughter-in-law suggests that, hey, why don't we all go see your parents? Let's all go see your parents. And Submit, I mean, I know his heart completely like dropped to his stomach when he heard that, because that was not his plan. That was not his intention. So Submit is like, So then he says it's not a good idea based on what happened at the tell all, because Jenny's daughter was very aggressive with Submit's parents as far as like, you know, challenging them in their beliefs. Like, you know, you need to let your son make his own decision of who he wants to be with. You know, you can't control your son, blah, blah, blah. So she was coming off a little bit too strong. And so Submit is like, I don't know, because, you know, the last time that everybody interacted, it did not go so well. So the daughter wants to see how Submit defends Jenny against his parents. And the daughter is very protective of her mother, as she should be. And she wants to know, and she wants to be reassured that Submit is truly there for Jenny. And that anytime that anybody from his family gives her any mess, she wants to make sure that Submit is going to stand up for Jenny and, you know, be her protector, her defender, etc. Submit is extremely uncomfortable about the two families colliding. He says in his confessional that he will defend his family, if necessary, against Jenny and her family. So that's where we stand. The next day, Submit goes to work. While he's at work, Jenny calls an immigration attorney. And she's doing this all behind his back because Submit doesn't want to go to America. So she has no business talking to an immigration attorney because he doesn't want to go to the U.S. So she's doing all of this behind his back. So she calls the attorney and she tells the attorney her situation. And the lawyer says, well, because of the backlog, you're going to have to wait a minimum of 2 years for this to, I don't know, get started or even to go through. So there's this 2-year backlog. So the lawyer asks, are you a spinster in the U.S.? Oh my God, what an archaic term. The lawyer says, are you a spinster back in the U.S.? And Jenny didn't know what a spinster was, but it's a woman who's never been married. If you read a lot of fairy tales, that's a very common word. So, the lawyer explains to her what a spinster is, and she says, no, I'm divorced. And the lawyer asks about their age. Jenny tells him, and because of the age gap, immigration will question the legitimacy of the relationship because they'll wonder, what is a 34-year-old doing with a 64-year-old woman? Then the attorney asks, well, how often do Submit's parents visit the two of you? And Jenny says, not often. The attorney says, well, immigration may also question his family as well. And then the attorney asks, has his attorney filed a formal complaint against him to the police? Jenny says she doesn't know. And I was like, wow, the family can file a formal complaint with the police department because they don't approve of their son marrying this woman. That's deep. That just shows you how serious this culture is about the people that their children marry. If there's something in the law over there that allows the family to file a formal complaint with the law enforcement because they don't approve of who their son married. That just shows you how serious it is for them. It's nothing to play with. We cannot impose our beliefs on another culture because we would not want that culture to impose their beliefs on us. And I'm saying this because when they go see the parents, if the daughter and the daughter-in-law do end up seeing the parents, they cannot, try to tell the parents, well, let Submit be free and let him do what he wants and let him choose who he wants to be with. Da, da, da. They can't do that because that's not what they believe. That's not their culture. That's not what goes on in their society. And I think that even though we may not agree with that, we have to respect that. And Jenny evidently has no problem with it because she's been with this man for 10 years and she knows how this culture operates. So this is the reason why she wants to leave. But to expect that his parents are going to change their views, I don't know. I just don't think it's right to impose to impose your own beliefs on another culture who may believe differently. So the attorney says that he's going to have to see the police clearance certificate on Submit to make sure that no complaints have been filed against him. And so, yeah, she wants to get this going. I don't know. I'm going to say what I've always said about Jenny and Submit. Jenny, pack your bags and go home. I've been saying this for the past 3 years, however long I've been watching these people, and I've been watching Jenny and Submit since day one. And since day one, I've always said, Jenny, pack your bags and go back home to the United States and stop playing around. This is not for you. Now your own husband is beginning to distance himself from you because he took on this job and he does whatever he's working these long hours. So he says he's these really long hours. He's even beginning to distance himself from you. Jenny, pack your bags and go home. And I don't want to be saying this for the next 3 years. Because if I have to continue saying this again, there's something really wrong with you, Jenny. Something extremely wrong with you. Now let's talk about some other people that have a lot wrong with them. Michael and Angela. This is getting really tiresome to talk about, but Michael partially blames himself for the whole Billy situation because he does admit that he wasn't giving Angela a lot of attention. So Michael says that he needs to step up his game. So they're at the pool of the hotel. It's at night, and once they're done frolicking around in the pool, he has champagne brought to them with some roses, I guess, and a gift. So he butters her up, with all of this romance, the champagne and the flowers, and the gift was a bracelet with a heart on it. So after he butters her up with all of this, he tells her that he does not want her to go to Canada to see Billy. And Angela says, I don't know if this is legit or not, but she says because of the fact that when she got married to Michael in Nigeria and when she returned back home to America, her mom had taken ill soon after and her mom ended up passing away. So she didn't have enough time to care for her mom or to really be there for her mom once she came back from Nigeria. So she has a lot of guilt because of that. So she says because of that guilt, she has this need to take care of and to be there for Billy because Billy has advanced kidney disease and she wants to be there for him because he was a good friend to her and she wants to show her appreciation and be a good friend to him. So Angela tries to convince Michael that they're just friends. There's no hanky-panky going on. There's no romantic feelings going on. And that Billy does not have any romantic notions with her. He does not have a crush on her. He never had a crush on her. Everything is completely platonic. So Angela calls Billy because she wants Michael to see for himself that they are just friends and nothing more. So she introduces the two men to one another. And Michael, he dove right into it. He says, did you know that my wife had a crush on you? And this is something that Angela had told Michael in confidence, but now Michael is revealing it now to Billy. So he says, did you know that my wife had a crush on you? And Angela felt extremely embarrassed because she didn't expect Michael to say this to Billy. And Michael wasn't done. He wasn't done there. He continues on to ask Billy, do you have a crush on my wife? And so Angela tells Michael, shut the hell up. And so Billy says, I don't have a crush on Angela. And so then Michael says, if you don't have a crush on her, why do you call her Angel? So it bothers him that Billy calls her Angel. And he says, me calling her Angel doesn't come from some nefarious place. I called her Angel because she's been so good to me. And so it comes from a place of compassion. That's why I called her Angel. She's been there for me through my sickness, etc. So Michael's like, Angel my ass. So Angela says that she will never leave Billy's side. And that Michael cannot dictate to her what he wants her to do or not do. And that Michael is not going to stop her from going to Canada. So Angela says, she tells him that you can't stop me from going to Canada. She also says in her confessional that when he tells her things like this, when he tries to be very controlling, it bothers her because she says she's an independent woman. She does everything for herself. She's always done what she wanted to do and nobody has stood in her way. And Michael is not going to be the first. So she says, that, Billy's just a friend. And she says, when I had no one, Billy was the one that was there for me because you weren't giving me any attention. He was the only one that was really there for me. So Michael gets frustrated. He gets up and he leaves. He goes back to his room. Angela apologizes to Billy for dragging him into this mess because she didn't expect it to go like this. And Michael says in his confessional, maybe I should just leave her. Michael, you're not going anywhere because you're still trying to come to America and your papers are going to arrive any moment. So cut the crap, cut the BS. You're not fooling anybody. It doesn't matter if Angela and Billy were having an affair. You're going to be exactly where you're at. You're going to continue on with this marriage to Angela because you have a goal in mind, and that's to come to the United States. So stop the bull crap. You have no intentions of leaving Angela and telling her that you want a divorce, that you want her to stop the immigration process. I don't know who the hell you're trying to convince, but honey, it ain't us. Moving on to, let's talk about Andre and Libby. So they are leaving the meeting with the sisters, and Libby tells Andre that he should have just remained calm. He should have controlled himself better while her sisters were acting all erratic. And I'm like, girl, do you not know who you're married to? Let me introduce you to your crazy, psychotic, verbally abusive husband, Andre. You're telling this man that he should have remained calm? I don't think he has any notion of the definition of calm. He doesn't know what that is. So he tries to defend himself, like why he acted the way he acted, so on and so forth, justifying his crazy behavior, which just reinforces what I said before. Libby, you should have just left him at home. He should not have been with you at this damn meeting. Your sisters had an issue with something that you did, which was posting your pregnancy announcement online and not telling them face to face, not telling them in person or through FaceTime or whatever. That's the issue that your sisters had with you. It had nothing to do with Andre, whether it was his idea or not his idea. You're the one that put up the damn post. Your sisters wanted to address you. You had no business bringing that crazy man to that damn meeting. Now here you are berating him and lecturing him about, oh, you should have been more calm. He should have been at home. So Libby tells Andre that when they go to the family therapy session, she wants him to remain calm. Once again, Libby, let me introduce you to your crazy psychotic husband named Andre. So the therapy session is going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be a total bloodbath if the therapist does not have complete control of these people, because you're going to have an entire family against Libby and Andre. Libby, of course, is going to be stuck in the middle. You're going to have the siblings going after Andre, and Andre not giving a damn and giving back that same energy back to the family, and it's just going to be a total and complete chaotic mess. So this therapist better have a very strong hold on these people's emotions and their attitudes and their tempers. So Andre doesn't think that the therapy session has anything to do with him or that it's for him. He goes, I'm just going to be there to support and protect Libby. Once again, protect her from what? If anything, she needs to be protected from you because your anger is lethal. So then they're baby shopping. Andre is stressing about it. See, this whole thing about Andre stressing about being deported back to Moldova. I'm just like, this is a waste of time. I don't even want to talk about this because I'm pretty sure it's all going to work out. They're legitimately married. If I don't see why all of a sudden immigration would do a background check on him now. I'm thinking that this was already done when he was initially approved for his green card, that they had already done a background check on him. So I don't think there's anything that's going to pop up in his background that they didn't already know about. So talking about this fear of, oh my God, is Libby going to give birth without Andre? Does Libby have to give birth to Moldova? Are they going to have to go back to Moldova? It's just total nonsense. I don't even want to talk about it. It's much ado about nothing. So let me move on to Ed and Liz. Not much going on there either. They go to the second engagement party that takes place in a castle. Ed says that his family is really big in real estate, so they were able to have this party in an actual castle. After promising Liz that he wasn't going to leave her side, that he was going to stick by her throughout the whole night, as soon as they get in, they took like 2 steps inside the castle. Ed was gone, and Liz was left to fend for herself, but it wasn't that bad. So she's talking to all the females of the family, the cousins, the nieces, the sisters, and all of that. And they ask her if there's a date set for the wedding. She says there isn't, because Ed's mother is not completely on board with the relationship. Ed's sister says that the mother felt like when Ed and Liz got together, the mother felt like she was being pushed out or being replaced by Liz, because Ed and his mom had been living together for eons and eons of years. There's always been the two of them. And now he's got this new woman who completely, you know, shoved her out of the way. So it was a big shock, not only to the mother, but also to some of the family members, that Ed and his mom had this conflict and were no longer living together, because they've been like a unit for so long. Ed announces to the family that him and Liz are definitely getting married, but they just don't know when. They're waiting for the mom and the daughter to jump on board. So the next day, Liz says that overall the engagement party was not that bad and went pretty well. She appreciates the support that Ed has from his family, and she really wants Ed to also have the support of his mom and his daughter, because she knows that as long as the mom and the daughter are not on board, they're not going to be able to get married. And that's exactly where we are with that. Now, like I said before, I don't really know the history of Ed and Liz. This is 90 Day Fiancé. Ed is a United States citizen. Where is Liz from? Is she from Canada or something? What country is she from? Anyways, yeah, so that's the end of my damn review. Y'all, I'm so lost in the sauce with Usman and adopting his nephew just to be able to have a child, when his family is expecting him to have his own child, which he still could if he would just leave, what's her name? Kim alone. I'm so confused about that. I need some serious clarification. Hopefully it'll come next week. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content. Go ahead and subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.